Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are taking a look at these newly released line of wheels from Farsports. This is their updated line of EVO wheels, which comes in 4 different flavors. The set of wheels that I have selected is their number 2 tier of wheels, which comes with the steel bladed spokes and then the ceramic speed bearings and hub internals. These were sent out to me courtesy of Joe, so huge shout out to him. In this video, guys, we're going to be talking about, of course, the specs on these wheels from Farsports. We're going to get them weighed out so that we have a real world weight test on these, and then of course we're going to be taking these wheels out on the road so I can give you some of my first initial impression on these wheels. Now, I do plan on testing these out throughout the end of summer through the fall, so a full review on these will be coming later. I want to make sure I can get in enough miles on these wheels so I can figure out if there's any quirks that come up and just see how these are to live with on a day-to-day basis. Early September here in Chicago, and today is arguably one of the nicest days that we've had for the entire season of summer, probably the nicest. It's 70 degrees, super low humidity. We're talking like 25%, 30% humidity. If you spend any time on holiday in late summer, any places like Portugal, like Porto, Lisbon, maybe you've gone to Spain, like Barcelona or Madrid, or even like Athens, like Santorini, Athens, places like that. I know I'm flexing on you guys right now, but if you have spent any time in any of those cities in early September, you know that the weather is primo. Not too hot, super low humidity. But anyway, I wanted to answer a few questions that you guys might have concerning these Farsports EVO C6 wheels. So the main question that you might want to know is, why did I elect steel bladed spokes versus my usual carbon bladed spokes? As you guys know, if you've spent any time watching this channel over the years, you know that I am a huge fan of carbon bladed spokes for their stiffness, for their lightweight properties, and just the overall road feel that you get. Now, there's actually a few reasons why I chose to go with steel spokes. So number one, it comes to the cost. So for these Farsports EVO line of wheels, they basically are offered up from Farsports in about 4 different flavors, and it varies based on whether you go with carbon bladed spokes or steel spokes, and then if you go with steel bearings or their ceramic speed bearings. So these are the tier number 2 from the top. Now, Farsports is known to make some very high quality OEM level spec wheels, and that does come with the price. So by going with the carbon bladed version of these with the ceramic speed, these do become very expensive. Even though they are fantastic wheels, but they are pretty expensive, and they are butting up basically with the Western brands. So the first reason is simply just for the value proposition that comes with the steel spokes. Number 2 is because of the wheel profile on these, because you have 24 millimeters internal, and then you have like 31.5-ish on the external width on these wheels. These wheels are going to make a fantastic set for all riding, all road purposes. So every year I do some rough road races that requires me to use 32C tubeless tires. These would be fantastic for that, and also just for gravel, because these are steel bladed spokes. That's obviously a better choice to go with for a set of gravel wheels if you do use these for some gravel or light gravel, versus using carbon bladed spokes. Whoa, whoa, sweet thing, don't you know you're my everything? Yo, shout out to Rufus featuring Shaka Khan with the classic record Sweet Thing. Yo, Shaka Khan has some bangers over the decades, so many classic records. But anyway, let's go ahead and weigh out these Farsports EVO C6 wheels. Now, just to recap the specifications on these wheels, we have 24 millimeters internal, 30 millimeters external according to Farsports website, although in my own measurements at home, I measured the external width more like 31 millimeters and like 31.5 millimeters external at the widest point. We have ultralight steel spokes, ceramic speed ceramic bearings, and then of course the 36 tooth star ratchet hub engagement. 58 millimeters depth for both the front and rear wheel. So let's go ahead and weigh out the front wheel. The front wheel we have 608 grams, 608 grams for the front, wheel. Again, that is 58 millimeters in depth, front and rear. And then the advertised weight for these is 1,370 grams. And then for the rear wheel, we have 757 grams. So 757 grams plus 608 gives us a total of 1,365 grams. So we're in like 5 grams less than the advertised weight. There is no tubeless rim tape installed because it's not needed based on how the wheels were built. So let's continue. And the third reason why I chose to go with steel bladed spokes is because due to the fact that I have tested and reviewed so many wheels that do come with carbon bladed spokes, I wanted to see if my opinions on steel spokes have changed since riding these wheels. And I think it's nice to have a mix of both for your all-out race day or fast group rides, or anytime you're doing any sort of spirited efforts where you're trying to eke out every little bit of performance. Even if it is a placebo effect, it's nice to have those carbon bladed wheels. But then for your all-day riding, if you're doing long endurance rides, if you just want that little bit of extra comfort, then I think that the steel bladed spokes is a fantastic option over the carbon bladed spokes. Let's talk about tire pressure. So with the 24 millimeter internal width on these wheels, that basically pumps up my 28C Continental GP5000 wheels to about 31 and a half measured width at the tire. So because of that, I'm running a tire pressure somewhere around, I'm doing like 68 PSI in the front and about 70 PSI in the rear. And it makes for a very, very comfortable ride. You consider with the lower tire pressure compared to maybe running a set of wheels that has a 21 millimeter internal width where I have to run like 80 PSI. Being at 68, 70 and in conjunction with these steel bladed spokes, it makes for a fantastic ride. There is no question that Giant makes some really good bikes, and one of the properties and characteristics, especially when it comes to their Propel frame set, is just how stiff this frame set is. So if you have a Giant Propel, or even if you have, like, say, the first generation of the Windspace T1500 Aero frame set, both of these frames are very stiff. I like that characteristic in the frame set, but if that is not someone that for yourself where you like that sort of riding dynamic, then having a set of steel bladed spokes, regardless of brand, is going to help sort of smooth out the edges and mitigate a little bit of that stiffness and offer up just a little bit more comfort. Free hub sound test on these Farsports EVO C6 wheels with a 36 tooth star ratchet engagement, ceramic speed bearings. So let's continue. And finally, let's talk about my time so far with these Farsports EVO C6 wheels. At 1,365 grams for the steel spoke version of these wheels are actually lighter than some of the carbon bladed spokes that I have reviewed in the past. And those carbon bladed spokes weren't even as deep or as wide as these wheels either. So this price point at $1,599 USD, it does reflect the use of those Alpina ultralight steel spokes, as well as the much lighter option ceramic speed bearings, which is a luxury. And of course, you can always opt for the $1,000 version of these wheels that go without the ceramic speed bearings options. They're just going to be about 65 grams heavier if that is important to you. Now at this point, I have used these wheels about 500 miles on my Giant Propel, ranging from spirited group rides, as well as recently a 90-mile/145 kilometer endurance ride. I was out there for about 4.5 hours. I'm going to tell you right now, I absolutely love these wheels. I love these wheels so much. In fact, I can already tell you right now that these wheels are going to end up landing in my top 3 favorite wheels of all time, right up there with my Craft Racing Works 5060s, my Magine XR Ultra 508 wheels, and just slightly beating out my beloved Windspace Hyper D67 wheels, the 2nd generation. So let me tell you why I absolutely love these wheels so much. So first off is the depth. at 58 millimeters in the front as well as 58 millimeters in the back. These are the perfect depth of wheels for everyday riding for the areas and terrain where I ride myself. Whether I'm riding solo or I'm doing a group ride, I just love this depth. They work really, really well for my setup. The internal and external width on these, being that the internal is like 24 millimeters and the external is like 31, these wheels just feel so bulletproof. I really can't explain it on YouTube, but these wheels just feel so bulletproof. And because the way these rims are spec'd, these are just going to be a highly versatile set of wheels. Everything from road riding all the way to gravel. And that's another reason that what I mentioned earlier, which is why I went with the steel spoke version of these, is because these are just going to be so versatile. These can really be the only set of wheels you could use for such a variety of riding styles. Next up is the weight. Like I said before, the fact that you are getting a weight at this depth, despite the fact these are not carbon bladed spokes, it's fantastic. So it's clear that Farsports really thought about all of the specs and details on these rims. And of course, like I said before, the price point does reflect that. Next up is the fit and finish on these and just the brand cachet of Farsports. If you've been living under a rock right now, just know that Farsports is an OEM manufacturer of high quality wheels. And so the fit and finish on these wheels also reflects that. Just the machine, the finishing on the hubs, the bearings had grease inside of them between the end caps, just the presentation of the box, the shipping, everything feels very high quality and feels very much OEM spec quality. And even if you decide to spec out your own wheels by using WheelsFar's website, you're going to get a similar experience as far as the fit and finish goes. So just the fact that at this price point, you're getting all this, you're basically getting Western brand quality and fit and finish for just a slightly reduced price. And the final thing, which has been the revolution for me, or I should say a revolution for me, has been these steel spokes. My assumption going into this is because they are steel spoke, that they would feel a little bit soft and that they were going to be comfortable. But what I found out is not only are these wheels comfortable, I don't detect any tangible loss in responsiveness or snappiness compared to carbon spokes. Just sprinting on these wheels, they just feel so fantastic. So the fact that you are still getting the stiffness when you are sprinting or you are accelerating, yet you are getting the all-day comfort of these steel spokes. I don't know how they were able to spec these out the way they are, where they just feel like the Goldilocks of wheels. They feel bulletproof, they're light, they're stiff enough for spirited efforts, yet they're still comfortable enough with that external and internal width on these for just all day comfort. These are some of my favorite wheels already, even only having ridden these 500 miles in. And I'm super excited to continue to ride these wheels throughout the rest of this outdoor season. So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Once again, huge shout out to Panda Podium for sending me out these wheels to test out. And of course, be on the lookout in the coming weeks or months, as I will have a full-on review of these wheels. But as always, questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I'm gonna check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.